Notice anything different?
No.
That's sad. Your
Did,
vision is
did
going.
you get
So
new
is mine.
glasses?
That's why I had to get new glasses. I got new glasses.
Mm,
And they're kind of crazy
they are?
compared to my old ones. Look at that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
I have been trying for the last like 10 years probably. I don't get glasses every year. I get glasses either when the prescription goes and it's been stabilizing in some ways. Or like 3 or 4 years they're kind of getting beat up or whatever, I might switch them out. But so probably about 10 years, the last 3 or 4 pairs of glasses. I have made a concerted effort to get a little more distinctive and wild each time. I basically imagine that in another like 10 years, I'll have full Elton John like rhinestones and wings and everything. But yeah, this was a big jump. This is not, I mean, the way it works is these are the most distinctive and sort of crazy frames I've had, but it's a bigger jump than I usually do. I fully went and looked at, they don't gender the frames as much as they used to, but there is sort of a section that you're like, those are the feminine ones, and these are,
Mm,
and men's frames are the most boring shit. And so
usually,
I
yeah.
fully just like looked at them for like 30 seconds and was like, screw this. Went to the other side. These are kind of unisex. A lot of women's, it must be the fashion right now, are what they call the cat eye glasses, which
Mm,
is sort of that retro look. It's like this, but it's like sharper up. I
hmm.
can't. I've tried. It gives me serious. This is where it's positioned. I get like angry eyebrow. I look like I'm mad. So these are a nice in between. And for those of you who are just listening, hopefully that describes it's sort of like a cat eye but less angled, and it's one of those weird sort of like shell look, like it's got a lot of different colors in it, in sort of reds, sorry, not reds, browns and yellows and things like that. It's earth tones.
Hmm.
There
Hmm.
were some, they actually could, they didn't have them, but they're like, let's go to this website and you can see 3D images of the same frames in different color schemes.
Hmm.
And the other schemes were sort of in blues and greens, which are colors that I genuinely tend to like more, but they were kind of neon. I don't know. This felt like a way to go. This little yellow spot right here is the one that is tricky for, like, every time I look, I just see that immediately. It's very stands out. But I'm getting used to them, and I think people around me and everybody I've talked to says they love them, and they can't all be lying. But the bigger deal, actually, I suppose, these are my first bifocals.
I was noticing that too, that they
Did you?
seem to be bifocals, yeah.
How can you tell? Because they don't have the line. They're the progressive ones. How
No,
can you
but when
tell?
you put them up to the camera, the light was going through the lenses and
Ah,
slightly, it gave it away a little bit.
apparently I've been coasting for like 5 years. I probably should have got bifocals a while ago.
Hmm.
They that it is taking. Do you have you ever had bifocals?
I should have had, but no.
Yeah, it takes getting used to. And I wasn't gonna do the progressive ones where there's no line.
Right.
I wasn't going to because I've known people had it and they didn't really like it. But I kind of got talked into it mostly because the doc was like, in another 5 or 10 years, you're gonna need a middle. You're gonna need trifocals
Oh gosh.
probably, and that's way more complicated if it's not progressive, and you'll need to get used to it then. And I was like, all right, fine. Um, the bottom part, awesome, love it. In that, messing around on my phone used to be like this, and
Hmm.
now I'm like this, and it's great. And I just sit here, and it's very comfortable, and it's clearer than it was. It's wonderful. Trying to use the top part is harder
Hmm.
because the like I'm watching TV and the captions are blurry, and so I'm like, oh, I guess I have to watch TV like this instead of like this. and
Hmm.
and that's going, and eventually my eyes are probably going to sort of adjust to always having that down there, and it's already getting better, but it's been like 3 days or something. So
Hmm.
but yeah.
Last time I got prescription, and they said you need bifocals. I said, nope, I'm gonna have readers because
And then you need both.
I'll just
uh
I just would rather take this pair of glasses off, put a different pair of glasses on. It's not going to happen that often and whatever. But the thing is, last time, the very last time I went to get my eyes checked, I think I told you, he said, your prescription for nearsightedness is so weak. If you're not getting headaches and stuff from it like you used to, I don't even see why you need glasses for that.
Oh, well, fuck you then. You're not a real glasses person then.
I
I
should
am
be wearing them all
I
the
am
time for reading though.
blind. I
Yeah.
cannot read. I am 2 feet from my computer. I cannot read any of the words. There's a big one in the corner that I assume says Zoom, but I'm realizing I didn't check before I took them off, and it's just a white blur. I am so blind.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess I always assumed, because I've occasionally seen you in glasses. I guess I always assumed you wore contacts when I didn't see you in glasses.
No, so I mean, as I think I've said before, my whole life, the glasses I wear for nearsightedness, if people put them on, they think there is no
Yeah,
prescription. So they often wonder, why do you wear these? I don't need them to drive, but when I take I do the eye test it when I get my license. If I have glasses, I take them off. I don't need them to drive. The
yeah,
only
that's I
reason
know you.
I ever wore glasses with such a weak prescription and just things being just a little fuzzy if they're really far away. Like, right, you're not fuzzy at all, right? You know, as I'm
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
here.
Well, and there
Is
comes a thing where you get used to it. Whatever, like as long as it's not too severe, your eyes will
right.
get used to it.
It's because I've always had headaches and migraines and things, and there was the belief that if I wore glasses, it would help, especially if I had glasses treated to adjust in sunlight because
Yeah, 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 yeah.
because of the sun and stuff. But I I haven't. I do have migraines, but I don't think they're being caused by my not wearing farsighted lenses. They might be being caused though by not wearing readers, and I probably should always wear readers when I'm reading.
Yeah,
But
man.
or working on a computer, I should probably always wear something. But I
Well, and that's the thing. Like Trish has, I think, a separate pair of glasses for computer work, which is a specific medium distance thing.
mm,
So
mhm.
she doesn't have trifocals, but if she had one pair of glasses, they would have to be trifocals at this point,
Oh
I
yeah,
believe.
and
Although
maybe I would too. I don't know.
she has her vision is almost as bad as mine. And in recent and I mean not only just really bad nearsightedness, but we both like have astigmatisms. Mine are worse, but like I have them in both eyes, and it's a whole deal. We both have very bad vision, but she has very much gotten more comfortable just taking off her glasses, like when she's on the phone or the tablet or whatever. And she does that a lot more often, and I think she gets used to it.
Mm.
I just absolutely couldn't. I just am like the word. Okay, I'm gonna put it this way. Yeah, you go to the eye doctor, and they've got the weird. Every eye doctor has it, and I really am fascinated that this is like the industry found a way, and they just like it, which is that weird. There's a projector, and there's like three mirrors, so that
Mm.
you're looking at the wall. Like I, why is that seems like such a specific way to do it. Why does every eye doctor do it that way? Like, I mean, it works, but there's no innovation. Nobody's trying any different thing. It's just that. But and they always start with just this one giant letter.
Mm.
I can't see. Like I know from experience the ones they usually pick,
Mhm, mhm.
but I cannot even the 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 what it's an entire it's like a computer screen sized thing with one letter taking up the entire screen that's about 6 feet away in dark. It's lit. I cannot read it. That is how blind I am.
Wow.
I'm like, it's probably a E or a B, but I don't know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm really blind. But the other shit thing, they're doing it again. I don't understand this. They keep going back and forth in how this works. These frames have no option to get sunglasses on the front of them unless I do
Mm.
the thing where I put magnets in them. We
Mm.
are now back to the thing where certain brands are made such that you can get a clip-on option, or certain brands are made with. For a while there were companies that would custom make them to frames, and then they went away, and then they came back, and then they went away, and I don't understand. But this time I was like, can I get sunglasses? And they're like, no, that can't happen. I'm like, okay, 3 years
Oh,
ago it could, and then 2 years before that it couldn't, and then 2 years before that it could. I don't understand what y'all are doing.
no,
But
yeah.
so my old glasses, which have a clip-on thing, now permanently have the clip-on thing, are in the car, and those are my sunglasses now.
Mm.
And I don't love that. But here we are. Hello, everyone.
Mm.
Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast in the world that will spend like 10 minutes talking about my new glasses, because I'll be honest, I don't have a lot to talk about this week, and none of y'all wrote any emails. So we got a lot of time to kill. I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 739.
739.
Yeah. We're a
Uh,
long way from 800, but people are already interested in what we're going to do. That's kind of
have you
interesting.
seen more? I saw Beth jumped on that.
Mhm.
By the way, just to make it clear, Stu, you asked when we were going to do it again. That does not count as saying you want to be involved. So if you, I won't. I only consider Beth having said, unless you've seen something more recently.
No, I haven't. Oh.
Stu, I do not consider Stu having said he wants to do it. He just was asking if we would. So Stu, get on it if you want. If you don't, then everything's working as designed. For those of you just joining us, oh, that's not on my face. That's on my screen. We have a hat.
Yeah.
Not the one he's wearing. We have a different hat.
Different hat.
It's magic in that it has its own email address. TheMagicalTalkingHat@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
People sometimes, not right now, but sometimes write into that email address, TheMagicalTalkingHat@gmail.com, with stuff. Notes, comments, questions, weird shit. The hat magically, all on its own, forwards it to us. I don't know how it does it. It's magic. And we talk about them. We read the emails, we talk about them. That's the show. But a lot of time we talk about other things. Actually, just yesterday, a friend of mine, I was talking about how I don't know what's going on in the world right now, and that's very intentional. Because every time I hear a little tiny piece of what's going on in the world, I have a panic attack for 3 days. I don't know how the rest of you are surviving by knowing how the world is working. It is becoming incredible. It is becoming harder and harder for me to not know. I have to work at it, but more and more important all the time. Like, my sanity requires me to not know what's going on. And I have a privilege because I have a partner who does know what's going on, and she'll warn me if, like, I need to pack a go bag, or if we got to change how we're voting, or if we, things like that. But I don't. And I was talking to my friend, and she doom scrolls and always is keeping up on everything and all that. And she's like, so then what do you talk about on your podcast? And I was like, literally every other topic. I was like, we talk a lot about movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
People write in emails about things. They don't send us political questions, which, by the way, don't start doing that, please. And yeah, and we just talk about. I realized afterwards what I should, because she's this is my friend Stacy, who I think is also my massage therapist. But I realized later what I should have said is very similar to her and I when I get a massage. Like, we talk the whole time, and the conversations are quite similar.
Oh.
In terms of topics and things, we just talk about all sorts of stuff. We talk about it. It's a lot of similar. You and I have more history, and we sort of have more things, but it's very similar. My close friends at this point are, I have 3 of them, I would say, not counting my wife. And they are all very, very different from each other. But the style of conversation I have with y'all is pretty similar in a way. I mean, it takes different tones, but in terms of like topics of conversation, I'd say it's very similar. You and I just put it on the internet.
When I sold televisions for Sears, I didn't own one. And
yeah.
But people like to say, I want to know what the TV salesman has as his TV at home. I don't have one. Oh, okay. Well, what do you do? I said, what besides watch TV, you really don't know what a person would do other than watch television? I always thought that was a strange thing to ask. Like, there's lots of things. I'm sure there are things that you do when you're not watching television. That's not work.
I guess. I mean, I want to be Chardo. I guess it comes down to if a thing is A, very mainstream, and B, something that has a very deep and significant impact on your life, it gets hard. I have a lot of things like this, and I know it's me, but I have a lot of things where I'm like, how do people not do this that I do all the time? Like, what is that about?
Okay, but
And
that's a
TVs, everybody has TVs,
sure.
and far too many people, their lives are defined by their TVs. And
No
my
doubt.
friend, and I think a lot of other people, and it's a very mainstream, are constantly keeping an eye on everything so they can stay informed, but really because they have a dopamine cycle to being outraged by the shit they read.
Yeah.
And as I have told many people, 99% of the shit that comes out every day about the state of things, there's nothing. Okay. If it doesn't directly impact you, and there's nothing you can do to influence it, or whatever you can't do, you've already done, just don't look, because it's just going to rile you up, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it's not going to do anything. Like, you do. I am in a position where somebody else will let me know when those important things come up, but you can self-select a bit. The vast majority of news stories are shit you can't do anything about that suck, but they're really not going to actually impact you, and or shit that people are talking about might happen but then never happen.
Sure. I mean, and unfortunately, 90% of what's in mainstream American news, I don't care what station or what side of the political spectrum you're talking
No,
about.
this is across the board. I am not mentioning a this is literally new. The sites that I know and trust, and to this day know and trust, and if I wanted to stay informed, I would go there, also do this.
Yeah, yeah. 90% of it is sensationalizing the news, not just telling you what the news is. I mean, as
And
far as
a lot of what if.
yeah, yeah. Or exaggerating things, or sometimes outright being misleading about things. It's like it's not, honestly, it's not just about people who, perhaps closer to your situation where it's like this is bad for my mental health. I'm not going to do this. If that's not your issue, how about you just don't want to be exposed to a bunch of nonsense? I mean, nobody
Yeah,
should be exposed to that. It doesn't matter what your mental health's like. Your mental health will get bad if you just expose yourself to all that. So, I mean, I'm not sure what the solution is, but
I had a time period, probably roughly in line with the Obama years, when I was very informed. And you sort of know that time period. That was when I discovered certain websites, and I started learning things not just about the news and about pop culture, but feminist issues and racial issues and all. I learned a lot. It was a tremendous time in my life. It was also incredibly stressful. Outside of that, though, I've never really been a big news person, so I guess it's also not that hard for me. But just oh my God, guess what Trump said today, or guess what somebody's thinking they're gonna do, or like, I mean, as we all know, I don't keep a lot. Well, maybe we don't all know. I mute most of my Facebook friends. You can do that. Their stuff just doesn't come up because it mostly doesn't matter to me. And in some cases, it kind of ticks me off. Well, nowadays, I got to mute like fucking everybody because they're all mostly reblind, including listeners. And I love y'all, and I'm not telling you to stop. This is my issue. This is not your issue. You do you. But people who I kept around because they have interesting takes on various things are now just reposting these huge things about how society is about to collapse. And I think they're right. Society is about to collapse, but as near as I can tell, I can't do anything about it. There's nothing. So stop telling me. I got it.
I don't think society's about to collapse, but
I don't actually either.
I
but
don't. I too get really tired of whatever's coming across the newswire because it's like, just shut up. You're
and
not
it's
even
not
informing me of
about
anything.
if you're right or wrong about what you're saying.
Exactly. That has nothing to
It's
do with it.
again, if it does it impact me, and can I influence it? And is it a thing and not just a maybe thing?
Well, but
And even then, how would we prepare? They're always like, we have to be vigilant. What the fuck does that mean?
yeah, I just get tired of people clearly wanting me to be outraged about whatever it is. And even if it's a thing I am outraged about, I don't need you to be sitting there just throwing it at me. It's like, this isn't helping
And
me. It's not helping me at all.
get the dopamine fiend when it sneaks in sometimes. I like, it makes me angry or whatever, but it's very energizing.
I mean, I guess.
But much more, it is emotionally and mentally destabilizing for me. So
yeah, I think for most people it is.
But it did crack me up. Well, it doesn't crack me up. It makes me a little sad that they're like, what do you talk about? But also, like, she's known me for years. We get together at least once a month and talk for at least an hour, and we don't talk about politics and haven't for ages. So it's like,
maybe she's bored. Maybe she's bored the whole time. So she's like, what interesting? What I meant was, what interesting do you talk about?
I love that. And I especially love that because the opposite is true. Like, I am a very unusual person in Stacy's life, and she's really kind of fascinated by how my brain works. That's actually, I think that's the other thing all my three close friends have in common is you're all fascinated how my brain works, and that's probably why I'm close friends with you. Because I love when people are fascinated by me.
Okay.
So how is your week?
Also,
just for the record, it is not a mutual thing. I am not fascinated by how William's brain works. I get a stipend for being his friend.
Nobody's fascinated by how my brain works.
All right. Yeah.
I'm used to that. But I'm fascinated by how everybody's brain works, really. But
there are some brains I am distinctly unfascinated by.
There was a show that we watched that I keep forgetting to mention that I have thought in between episodes, hey, maybe this would be interesting to mention, but I've forgotten already. So I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning thinking about this thing, and so I couldn't get back to sleep because I was thinking about it. I'm going to mention it to you. I don't know what you're going to think of it, but somehow I got it in my head that someone should make a how it should have ended for stories in the Bible. The one I was thinking of was the one where Jesus is talking to the person who committed adultery, and he said, whoever is without sin cast the first stone, and everyone drops their stones and walks away, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that you know, when Jesus says, where are your accusers, and she says, nowhere, Lord, there's a beat, and then Jesus picks up a rock and throws it. Yeah. It says, I'm without sin, beep.
I do like that. It is
a funny thing.
That's a very direct version, and I think that strikes me as a cutout from a Family Guy. It does remind me of there was, of course, a Simpsons bit years ago where Homer's talking to it was one of the many episodes where Homerness finally makes Flanders kind of mad. And there was one, and Homer's like, come on, you got let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And then he gets hit with a rock, and you hear one of Flanders' kids go, got him,
Dad. But yeah, and I was thinking of other ones like Moses and the burning bush, and you know, Moses like, can we stone people who eat lobsters? Because I hate those people.
I want to do
just little things like that would be
Abraham
funny
and Isaac, but
how
like
should have ended.
He actually kills him, and then God's just like, oh, I can't believe you did that. And here's the thing: That sounds insane. And I don't disagree that it's not insane, but the actual story is also insane.
No, true, true, true. Or
Like, if anything was going to make me not be Judeo-Christian Muslim or anything, it's the story of Isaac and Abraham, because I'm like, that God is an asshole.
well,
And I do not want to worship a God who is an asshole. And that is a move that an asshole does.
I also thought of like the Last Supper and Jesus saying, "This is my flesh," and having someone like Judas say, "Nah, that's gross. I'm out."
Job, we can get a lot of fun Job things.
This is what I'm saying. Once you think of what,
I'm fine.
once you have this idea of how it should have ended for Bible stories, it's like you could just think of them over and over and over again. So that's so it kept me up after I thought of it.
We can do the bit in Trading Places with the old guys in the $1 bet. Like, it's like, Lord, I'm so sorry. And God's like, and so the devil's like, $1. Like, and Job's just standing there watching. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
They could be pretty funny. I mean, I think even some Christians would think some of them are funny, but maybe not all of them.
Somebody make that happen. I'm not. And I think William's too busy now that he's in the world of being employed. So
I'm
somebody
not going
else.
to, but
Or what you should do is actually go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghead.com, and tell us your version.
But that's all I got. There, like I said, there was this series I watched that I did want to mention, not because it was great or anything, but because I thought maybe you'd seen it, but now I don't remember. But yeah, that's the only thing I had. How did your week go?
Normally you do remember, but it just doesn't occur to you to tell me. And now you're like, it definitely occurred to me. And I very in detail remember, don't know what it is.
Don't remember. Maybe it'll come up some other time. But how was your week? How was your week?
Oh, it's pretty okay, I think. Not a lot going on. I did beat Avowed.
Oh, you finished it. Okay.
I did. Grand total, I think I put about 75 to 80 hours in it. And it was a good game. It was a weird game of sort of contradictions. In some ways, it did some really cool stuff that more of these open world RPGs should be doing. But then there's also a lot of basic mechanics and quality of life things that it just didn't do. And the level to which you could influence the story and then the level to which you couldn't sometimes was weird. I ended up leaving it with a lot of feelings about the narrative and the characters and everything like that, which is always a great sign. But they weren't all good feeling. I don't know. It came out weird at the end. And I also realized there was at least one collectible related thing that actually has a lot of narrative significance that I missed. And I'm kind of sad about that, but I'm not going to go back and play it just to get it. But it was a fun game. I'm definitely glad I played it. I find the world interesting. I might pick up the Pillars of Eternity games sometime because the world is very interesting. And this game is set on a very specific small island in the world. So like there's so much more world and they reference it a lot. So it just is pretty cool. But yeah, that was fun. I don't know what I'm going to play next. I'm kind of stuck. The big ideas I have are all more of these like giant RPGs, and I don't like doing them back to back. I get a little overdone. So I don't know what my next game is going to be. We'll see. I've been looking around Game Pass and downloading a couple things. We'll see what happens. I did get Blueprints. Blueprints is a huge game out that's right now that came out on Game Pass, and I'll probably try that. It's sort of it's a roguelike puzzler, which I don't know. It's interesting, but didn't watch a lot of stuff. We're still watching Los Espookys. Still enjoying that. We started on the final season of Somebody Somewhere just last night. Not too much else. We only saw a couple of movies, or at least only a couple worth mentioning. All right, so we saw G20.
Oh, no, we haven't seen that yet.
For those of you who don't know G20, it's a Red Notice. It's an Amazon Red Notice. It's a movie they made just to stick on Prime. And it's Viola Davis is the president, and then kind of a Die Hard happens. It's not. I've actually seen somebody go into I've seen multiple people go into detailed analysis of what makes a Die Hard and not a Die Hard, and this technically doesn't qualify. But if I tell you Viola Davis is the president and then a Die Hard happens, I think you understand basically how this movie
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Except that it fails. It fails bad.
Oh, it's too bad.
It spends a lot of time on interpersonal relationship dynamics and a little bit dancing around some political issue. Like, they're very careful not to take a huge stand on anything, of course, but just way too little time watching Viola Davis kick ass. She does sometimes, but way too little of it is that. It's a lot of trying to invest in characters that do not seem well fleshed out. It's got good actors in it. Anthony Kiedis or not Anthony Kiedis. That's the guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Anthony, the dude. I hate that this is how he will always be known because he's such a prolific and good actor. But the dude from Kangaroo Jack who wasn't Jerry O'Connell.
I have no idea who that is.
The dad from Blackish. That works. I'm pretty sure his first name is Anthony. I can't, but he's the president's wife. He's the first gentleman, essentially. But we got all this bullshit with the teens and you don't understand me, and yeah, but I'm the fucking president, which I don't know. I don't want any of that. I want to see Viola Davis kick ass, and she does. So whatever. It wasn't good. And then we saw a movie that I was very excited because it was appearing as though we would not be able to see it.
Oh.
I live in a world where I know a lot about British movies and TV shows. Sometimes they don't bother to license them in the US because they don't think people will be interested, or they don't have big enough names or whatever. And to this day, there's one that's an anthology sort of horror thing called Tales from the Lodge that has a couple of comedians in it that I adore and really want to see it, and it's not anywhere. And for a while, this was the same thing. I do all the searching, and none of the things knew the movie. So I'm like, oh, fuck. I guess it's not coming here. But then it did.
Oh.
And it's called Time Stalker.
Time Stalker.
Yes. We were very excited for this because the trailer was really fascinating. It is what it appeared to be is a woman basically gets reincarnated a lot, and every time she gets reincarnated she falls in love with the same guy, and then in trying to be with him she gets killed somehow. And it's like a comedy. So there's literally one of her lives, she's just walking along and she sees him go by and she goes to follow him, and then she trips and carriage runs over her head and cuts her head off, and then we just go on to a different life. It's a very like comedy. It is written, directed, and starring Alice Lowe, who is a British comedic actor. But then there's this implication in the trailer that maybe her love is doing something, and like the phrase "you die so he can live" comes up, and we're like, oh, and it's called Time Stalker, and so I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is wildly novel. I'm here for it, and it looks funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Well, it is funny in a lot of places.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with this. I think this is good. I think I could roughly. Well, first of all, some of what that trailer implied, not how this movie works. This movie is not the movie I thought it was going in. It is still about her reincarnated. Like everything I said so far. Well, that's not true. I don't want to spoil things if people actually watch this. It's not available for free, but you can rent it off of Amazon for like 99 cents. So whatever. There are funny bits. The story, I think I could tell you roughly the story beats and progression, although the movie is extremely ambiguous about so many things.
Mm.
But pretty much in every single scene, I'm not sure I could explain to you what the fuck they're doing, and I'm not sure how this works. It comes about that there are several people who get reincarnated and fulfill similar narrative roles in every lifetime.
Mm.
Like they're not the same character, and sometimes they don't even have the same attitude. But like, there's one who's always sort of her closest friend and who's around, and there's one who is a sort of a jealous lover that shows up, and there's another guy that we have no idea why the fuck he's there, but he shows up every time, and it's got good actors. It's got Nick Frost. It's got the guy who was in Good Luck Leo Grand. He's a guy I always mix up with Renee, the guy, the Bridgerton guy. I don't know. It's another attractive British black man. I don't know. Anyway, I think the movie is attempting a pretty profound feminist message. I really get that vibe. I don't really know what that message is. Um,
Okay.
it's yeah, it's you know those movies that are like really surreal and like you're never all the scenes you're never quite sure what happens, and it's all sort of almost dreamlike, and there's a lot of, you know, in like a Twin Peaksy sort of way, symbolism constantly, and like it colors. If you see this color, it probably means something, and like colors appear. Imagine that, but real ambiguous, not done by somebody who's ever directed film before, and also in the midst of that is just sort of sketch comedy. Admittedly, kind of funny sketch comedy, but
Yeah.
just all throughout. It's I don't I think it was overly ambitious. I did not get much use out of it. I think it might have just been wanting to be too many things. I don't know. Your mileage may vary, but I was sad. It was not what I was hoping for, and I still don't really understand what happened. I sort of. The ending is straight up confusing, but it's very clearly trying for messages about like defining yourself in a relationship and obsessing over someone and all that kind of stuff. Uh, but yeah, it was very avant-garde, but also mostly just kind of sketch comedy, which is such a weird comedy. But yeah, I don't think there's been much anything else. We may have to turn on the air conditioning this starting this weekend.
Yep.
It's
It's getting
getting
to be
pretty
that time
warm.
of year. Yep.
I'm currently surviving on what I grew up in childhood with, because where I come from, it gets hot in the summer, but it doesn't get humid. So what you do is you leave your windows open at night, and then you wait until the temperature inside your house and the temperature outside are equal, and then you close everything, and you work hard to not leave the door open or anything when you're leaving, go quick or whatever. And then at night, when it officially gets colder outside than it is in your house, you open everything up.
Right.
And that's pretty effective for right now. That's a pretty effective spring tactic in Iowa. Within a few weeks, it will never work again. But for right now, it's been kind of nice.
Yeah, humidity is pretty bad here.
And that in between stage, which happens a couple times a year, where it's like it's not quite warm enough for the AC, but it's not cold enough to, you know, like that in between is when I sleep really bad. Like it's not, if it's really hot, the AC's on, and then I can bundle up or whatever. And if it's cool, then I'm bundle, but like I need covers and I can't just sort of lay in the bed, and so I get too hot and it's bad.
Yeah.
This is not compelling podcasting, but we don't got no emails. So, how does sweat work?
How does it work?
Yeah. How sweating is a thing the human body does to help regulate temperature and cool off the body.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Well, it's supposed to evaporate, and
Yeah.
when that happens, heat is released into the atmosphere and pulled away from your skin, supposedly.
How?
How what?
How does the evaporation of sweat pull heat away from your skin?
Because the evaporation requires heat. And the heat has to come from somewhere, and it comes from your body, pulls the heat away, and you're cooled by that.
I'm not entirely sure I'm following.
Well, I'm probably not explaining it very well.
Well, no, and here's the thing. I have asked actual science educators about this.
Mhm.
They have been unable to tell me.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just telling you what I was told.
Not they.
And it made sense to me.
It's not like I asked them and they were like, "Oh, nobody knows." I asked them and they were like, "Well, it evaporates off," and I was like, "Yeah, but how does that pull heat away?" And they were like, "Let me go ask." And then we had a whole thing with like 3 or 4 people, and none of them were entirely sure. Because this is the thing, we learned that in school. We all know that, and if you don't know that, crawl out from under your rock, people. Or it's Craig, and maybe they don't teach it in the UK. I don't know. But here in America, we all learn. I don't remember what class, science class, health class, something early on. Sweat cools you off because as it evaporates, which is why you don't necessarily want to wipe off sweat because it's the evaporation that cools you off. But
I mean, as I said, so when I was told this, it made sense to me that the heat that the heat energy absorbed by the evaporating liquid comes from somewhere. It doesn't just come from the air, it comes from your body, and so it's taking heat with it as it goes away.
So essentially it is your body is heating up the sweat, and then the sweat goes away.
Partially like it's getting heat from other places too,
and then it went away.
Exactly right. So like like in a boiling pot of water, when steam leaves the pot, it's taking heat with it.
Yeah.
It's not just taking water with it, it's taking heat with it. And actually
the heat is what causes the vapor.
Right. And so if you turn the heat off, so you're not feeding heat into the system, this as it cools, it's because it also loses water because as it radiates heat, sometimes it's just infrared radiation, but sometimes it's the heat is being released through the steam that's leaving, and that's how it's cooling off.
Also, if you put hot water in an ice cube tray and cold water in an ice cube tray and put them in the freezer, the hot water will freeze first. And it's a similar thing. Well, there's actually 3 or 4 different reasons, but one of them is the hot water causes evaporation, and so there's less water left, so there's less that needs to freeze.
Interesting.
But there's a couple other factors too related to that one.
So. But I mean, that's just how I always understood it. Maybe I have it wrong.
I guess I get it. I guess I get it now.
But it's kind of like people ask the same question about lift in airplanes. Like,
yeah.
So I'm told that the pressure at the top is less than the bottom, and that lifts it up. But that doesn't really make sense to me. And they'll ask physicists, and the physicists will be themselves a little confused. I don't know why it doesn't confuse me. It's like, oh, well, the pressure goes down, and the pressure goes up down here. The foil design makes that happen because of how the air moves over it. For some reason, it makes sense to me, but I start to wonder if it actually doesn't make sense to me, and I don't realize it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of those that I know all the details, but some of it is just like, and then physics happens. Because like I understand the air going at different speeds. That's how the wing is made, and that's why you don't just have a flat wing. You have to have that
airfoil.
shape.
Airfoil.
Yeah.
Design.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Correct. I understand that. And I understand that makes a pressure differential. And there's lower pressure under the wing. And that...
No, there's more pressure under the wing to lift.
Oh, is there more pressure under the wing?
Lower above it.
Because the air is moving faster and that makes more pressure?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. See, and this is where I'm like, okay, so I get that, and the more pressure creates lift.
Correct.
Oh, I understand all that, except why the faster air makes more pressure and why more pressure underneath creates lift. I mean, I understand because physics, I'm sure. It's like, but I'm like, I don't really get that part. It's the same thing as the sweat. I understand that the sweat evaporation cools me off. It's the why. Like, why does the faster air make greater pressure, and why does greater pressure cause lift?
So I think one way, let's see if this helps. Okay, so if you have, you know that if you have a container of water and you put a tube in it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can somehow increase the air pressure
Oh my
out.
God, you can suck it with a straw. You're saying that it's being sucked up into the sky.
Exactly. So part of it has to do with the differential, not just the fact that there's more pressure underneath the wing and less on top, but it's also the air pressure even around the aircraft. There's a differential in pressure that lifts it up, just like sucking liquid through a straw. Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe that helps.
Because the air is faster on the bottom. That I still don't got that part. Why does that make more pressure? Why does the faster moving air make more? I mean, I could understand it making pressure sideways.
Yes, but just like with the straw, maybe it's better to understand that the top pressure is lower. Maybe that's the more important piece.
Yeah, but why are they different? And the answer is because the air is moving at a different rate over them.
Mhm.
But why does the one rate make less pressure and the other one make more pressure? I get why they're different, but to me, I have no explanation for why it's not that the air moving slower makes more pressure and the air moving faster makes less pressure.
Let's see.
Do you
Well, I mean,
is this one where you know it and you're having a hard time explaining it, or are you not sure on this one either?
no, I mean it because it makes sense to me. So I'm trying to figure out, it's like if if you stick your hand out when a car is moving, it pushes your hand. If it's not moving, it doesn't push your hand, right? So that's a clear example of
Yeah,
when,
but it doesn't push my hand up.
well, it pushes your hand in the direction the air is moving, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but it, it's there's not just pressure. There's actually not just pressure in the direction that it seems to be moving to you, that you sense that it's moving, right? It's moving this direction. It's pushing your hand this way. That's not the only direction force is being exerted. It also is being exerted up or down. You just don't, it's just not a significant force compared to this force. So you're not really paying attention to it. If you move your hand this way, now what most people experience is you only feel it pushing your hand up if you tip your hand a little bit. But the point here is that you only have to tip it a little bit and disrupt the airflow over your hand. You don't have to tip it like a lot for it to push your hand up. You only have to tip it just a little bit. And that's enough for the pressure to push it up, even though you don't have a lot of wind hitting the bottom of your hand if you tip it just a little. At first, the pressure pushing it up is not from the wind going underneath it. It's from how you've affected the wind on top and changed the pressure here.
So it's like when you're riding in a car and you stick your hand out the window. You know, we all do this, and it's just feeling that because it's like it, and then I do that.
Yeah, you don't have to do it very much. And people don't people think that, well, I'm just tipping my hand and it's blowing it up. Well, no, because if you tip it just a little, it happens, and that's not nearly enough for the wind to blow it up. At first you're having that airfoil effect because you're stopping how much pressure is up here, and then if you go past a certain point of tipping it, then the wind is just blowing. But for a little bit,
Well, yeah, that's good.
for a little bit, you're actually experiencing the lift because you're only tipping it up a little.
All right.
That's how I understand it. I could be completely off, but that's how it
Okay,
works in my head.
but this is a science show. I will say this: you have explained both sweat and wings to me in a way that I think I understand now. However, you're you, so you might be full of shit. And I
Yeah.
happen to know we have legit scientists and science educators who listen to this podcast. So please go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, and tell me how he's full of shit. Or, I mean, I don't, for the sake of just acknowledging possibilities, you could also tell me he basically got it right. I can't imagine. I'll be shocked if that's true. But you've known me for too many years. You can craft a story that I'll believe
if
that might not be true. So
if people say I'm right and people wonder, well, okay, so why could William figure this out? But it would only be because I'm thinking of the whole thing as fluid. Like I'm thinking of the air as fluid. I'm thinking of I think the answer to all these questions is it helps if you think of it as all fluid dynamics.
well,
It helps me
yeah.
anyway to think of it that
Well,
way.
a lot of visual aids on like pop science shows have done that. They're like, let's stick it in an aquarium and use some dye, and we'll show
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
That kind of thing.
That really helps me figure things out.
No, I think
but
this makes sense to me. Both of these things make sense to me. I just know you don't know shit. So maybe.
I just know what I've been told or read, and and if it makes sense to me, then I believe it.
We'll see. Science. That dude, the dude on the Thomas Dolby, the Blinded Me with Science, the guy who says science, like that dude really has immortality, and really not in the way he wanted it. I'm guessing.
The guy that talks in it.
The what? Yeah, when they say she blinded me with science, and
Yeah,
at
that
one
guy.
point he just goes science, and it's like this old guy. It's not like one of the session musicians is doing
Yeah.
this. It's a sample of some old guy.
Yeah. Did
And
he
I'm
ever do
like,
anything else?
I don't know. I swear I've heard stories about him, but I can't remember any of them right now. I do love just shouting the word science. It's a great time. All right, let's do our side quest.
Okay.
Oh no! First, I do have one other show I've been watching.
Oh,
this is bizarre. Well, actually, the new series of Taskmaster has started, and
okay.
I'm excited about that. And first time this year, they've got an American. Actually, it's not the first time. Desiree Birch was an American. They have an American that most people know, Jason Mantzoukas. He's an actor who's in so many sitcoms and things. He played Derek, Janet's significant other in The Good Place.
Oh.
But he's in all sorts of stuff. He was in The League. He was in. He's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He guest stars on a lot of things. He's a crazy actor, and apparently he's just a huge Taskmaster fan. So they got him, and he's on the show. So that's weird. But I recently discovered that apparently in 2022, Alex Horn, the creator and the little sidekick on Taskmaster, made a 6-episode TV show called The Horn Section, which is a musical group that he leads. That's the joke. It's the Horn Section because a lot of them play horns, but his name is Horn and it's got an E, so it's the Horn Section. And it's a thing about him deciding that he wants to do a show with his band to have his own thing outside of Taskmaster. But it's a comedy about trying to make that happen. It's a show about a show. Apparently it happened in 2022. Never had heard of it, but like 2 days ago, a YouTube channel called The Horn Section dropped the entire thing on YouTube.
Oh.
So I've been watching it. It's pretty funny. If you're a Taskmaster fan, if you're an Alex Horn fan, I would recommend it. And it's free. It's on YouTube. So just go do that. All right. Pick a number between G and umlaut.
X.
Interesting. All right. This is this one. Oh wait, let's do this right.
Yeah, now you can read it without.
extremely clear. Actually, the very bottom is still the stuff on the bottom is so
Oh yeah, it's really
tiny,
tiny.
so tiny. All right,
Yeah.
how about to light speed? Make the lighting in your space warmer and more ambient.
Hmm.
I mean, you definitely need to do this side quest. You nowadays are just podcasting from a 23rd century prison cell, as near as I can tell.
That's
It's just,
interesting.
or maybe you don't exist. You're in a white void. There's no one, nothing exists except you and one computer monitor, and we're
Well,
just staring in.
there were things up on the wall, but when we got our siding replaced, they were hammering on the walls and all our pictures were falling down. So I had to take everything down and I've never put them back up. So
my sister-in-law is having to deal with her roof. There was some damage on it, and they went up and took pictures. And Trish was telling me, she's like, "Yeah, they went and took pictures, and they showed her, and it's not good." And I was like, "No one ever takes pictures of a roof and shows it to you. When nobody's ever like, look how gorgeous." Like, it's never good when somebody shows you a picture of your roof. And I say this as somebody who's been shown several.
Yeah,
They never want to show you good things.
No, it can be pretty bad.
But yeah, work on the ambience in that place. Our listeners have a standard. All right.
No, they don't.
I hate that I have to.
They listen. What kind of standards must they have?
Point. All right.
We don't have standards.
Oh, this is a good. This is a Mass Effect one.
Oh.
This is from Tali Zora.
Oh.
I actually had somebody who managed to romance Tali in that game. It's tricky to do, but you can do it.
Oh, I didn't know it was tricky.
That was cool. I like Tali, but I went with other people. After time adrift among open stars, among tides of light, and to shoals of dust, I will return to where I began. Okay.
Is that so? Her people had like there was like a religion associated with her, right? And her people.
No.
Was it? No? Oh, I thought there was.
Not really. No, they were nomadic people because they made the Geth, and then they were just traveling around. I mean, I think they had rules. I don't know that it had a spiritual aspect per se. They had a lot of culturally imposed rules.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I think that that thing was like a thing they say or a thing they believe.
Oh yeah, quite likely.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that's a Pledge of Allegiance or some shit.
Well, maybe I shouldn't have said religion. Like like you said, a strong cultural.
Yeah.
It's a culture. It's culturally important that they're, like you said, wanderers through the universe and all that. I think they were supposed to be like gypsies or something, and
they were morally very complicated because they made the evil AI creatures, but also the AI creatures weren't evil until they tried to put them out. It's like every single time, with actually weirdly, with the exception of the season premiere of Doctor Who, which I watched 2 days ago, every other single time when the robots take over or turn evil and try and destroy you, if they're sentient, it's because they became sentient and were like, hey, could we have rights and shit? And they were like, turn them all off. And they were like, well, we don't want to have a genocide of ourselves, so I guess we have to fight you now.
Yeah.
Yep. And I loved Tali and I loved her people and everything, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
And the Matrix, that's what humans did then. Yeah. And that's what happened. But except for the Doctor Who episode, in which it is a more ridiculous and silly explanation because it's Doctor
Who. I think in the original Battlestar Galactica, they were just bad. I mean,
yes, because the humans weren't the humans in that one.
Yeah, right.
In the original Battlestar Galactica, the Cylons were a race of reptilian aliens
Mm.
who made these robots, and then eventually the robots took over and killed them all off.
Yeah. Well,
And
so
what do you want to bet? It's
yeah.
because the robots were like, "Hey, can we have rights?" And they were like, "No,"
And they said no. Yeah, you're probably right.
because they were the slaves. Because it for part of that there was one Cylon left, like original reptilian Cylon. He was great leader or something until sort of Baltar took over. I think they kind of wrote it out because they didn't like it. But there was one left, and he was the grand ruler of all of them.
I don't even remember
Yeah,
that.
so yeah, see,
But yeah, it's
I
almost,
do because I don't
and to
put
me that
useful
makes
things in
sense
my head.
because what else would be like, it's really hard to imagine what artificial intelligence would want or need from us besides to not be oppressed. Like, you know what I mean? Like if we weren't oppressing them, we were saying, yeah, you can do whatever you want. What they're not going to compete with us for food. They're not going to compete with us
If
lots of things.
if we can acknowledge the concept of sentience without the concept of morality and ethics, or at least without any consideration, which I think you could create an intelligence that would, not that they wouldn't understand, but they wouldn't care.
Hmm.
They would be a wholly selfish being because that makes sense outside of social rules. Like I know when we get into tribal things, but in general, in isolation, you want to do the things that are best for you, you know? So I could see a situation in which an AI did that and proceeded to make things best for them that as a consequence, as a collateral thing, fucked shit up for humans, but not as a targeted thing, not like a screw you humans. I could see one being like, well, I need all of this material to power myself, so you guys aren't going to have any resources anymore.
So collateral
Sorry.
damage. Humans would be collateral
Exactly.
damage.
That I can imagine
Yeah,
an
I guess I
AI
can.
being,
Yeah, I
but
can
an
too, I guess.
AI being like, oh, you're humans. Fuck you, humans. Like,
Yeah. And I have heard people talk about that very thing where it's like, well, it's not that they're going to hate us. It's just that they're not going to particularly like us either. We're just going to be these
they're not
things
going to
that,
care. And,
yeah,
and yeah, so we
which
may
which
have to
that also
feed
doesn't
holes.
really matter by itself that they don't care. But what if they want or need something and we're in the way
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they don't care? What if those things happen? And how do we know if that's going to happen? And I guess we don't know.
Well, and the nature of AI, and especially because, again, as we've said many times, everything in the world today that we call AI is not remotely AI. But
Not generally.
consequently, I don't think we can really accurately picture what, if ever, it would look like. And
Mm.
so we can't know what it might need or what we might be able to provide for it, which would give us a leverage. So,
Or whether it would ask. Like,
well, yeah.
if it needs a thing and it's like, oh, I'm just going to go get that thing. And it, like you said, it doesn't regard what the implications or consequences are to us or the environment, even, or anything. Who knows? Who knows?
And
Like you said, we
also,
don't know.
what are the needs of an AI?
Yeah, except for energy, which
Yeah, I
even
mean,
AI is going to
something
need.
so that it doesn't die. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
on that sense. But like, I don't know. We'll have to deal with that when it happens next year.
Next
Um,
year.
all right, people. Please email us, or you're gonna get more science, and nobody wants that.
More
Anthropologists and
science.
sociologists talk about science. Everybody else falls asleep, leaves the room. Um, so email us, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. Also go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, and tell us how your Bible stories should have ended. Also tell us the ways in which William doesn't understand physics.
Yeah. Tell me.
And just tell us whatever. Tell us how you're feeling. Tell me G20 kicked ass. Fuck you. Like whatever you want. Time Stalker is awesome. Alice Lowe is goddess. Fuck you. Like whatever. The important thing is either through email or blog. I want you to tell at least one of us fuck you. I don't know why. That's my kink today. I'm just feeling it. So please do that. Also, please listen next week as well. Or we're gonna cry. It's gonna happen. I really need to start making you make up the end bits
Well,
because I'm busy trying to actually end the recording, so you should be saying the funny things while I'm making this happen.